The Brampton Triveni Temple in Canada has cancelled a consular event scheduled for November 17th. The event was a life certificate granting event and was organized at the temple premises. It was part of the consulate's many camps for issuing life certificates for pension purposes. The temple authorities have mentioned that they have cancelled the event in wake of the official intelligence from Peel Regional Police, which stated that there is an extremely high and imminent threat level of violent protests. Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, the chief of Sikhs of Justice and a designated terrorist, has issued an open threat to temples in Canada. The Canadian police had arrested his aide Inderjeet Gosal, who had led the earlier mob attack on the Brampton Temple, but then was released in a few hours' time. Canada's Hindu organizations have protested the lack of security at religious places, and this cancellation of the event has added to the plight of the Canadian Hindu devotees. Let's start our conversation. Ambassador Pradeep Goyal, do you find it appalling and a little absurd that the Canadian police cannot provide security and safety to its people, to the Hindus, to the Indians who were to come in considerable numbers to be part of the consular camp?
So, Megha, thank you for initiating this discussion on NewsX. When you say, do you find it surprising? No, I don't find it surprising. I find it shocking. I am absolutely amazed that any society in the world where the rule of law and order is to prevail can let such things happen. And is it a law-abiding society, as a country, as a community, as a region, as a province? Or is it a lawless society which is existing there in Canada? If the diplomatic personnel cannot operate freely to discharge their duties, I think you are really taking the definition of lawlessness to an extreme. You are, being classified not as a third world society, but as something which is like Sudan or Yemen or some other society where the rule of law cannot prevail. Consular officials are supposed to get total security for their person and for their being and for their work. And here, if the consular people are feeling threatened, and this is a very routine exercise for us in the embassies and the missions to go around in different parts of the country and do consular work, give life certificates so that they can continue to get their pensions, so that they don't have to come to Ottawa or Toronto or any of the big cities. And it makes it a lot easier for the diaspora and the others who are dependent on pensions for their life. So this is the period, November, when most of the life certificates have to be renewed.
Yeah.
So instead of getting large numbers into the city, you are going out to as an outreach. Now to tell and have attacks on temples where these diplomats are trying to do their work, and for the law and order system of that country not being able to guarantee that they are able to conduct their work in a peaceful manner, and the people who are to reach them for getting their work done can reach them in a peaceful manner, and there is no disruption. Even an ordinary society in the world can ensure that. For Canada not to be able to deliver, and now some legislators trying to have to pass legislation to say that there should be no protests outside temples, and this is absolutely, and is it a joke of a society that what is supposed to be normal, execution of your work needs now special protection by law, just to do something very routine and very ordinary.
Right.
And it's a good measure he's taking. I don't dispute that, but for a society to come to that state where a legislator is talking about passing a bylaw that yes, the temple premises, there should be no protests outside, etc. And this is normal routine work.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah,
you make your point. You make your point strong. Okay, Surinder Singh Lali also on the telecast with me, and Mr. Lali, you think this is exactly what these protesters, I wouldn't call them protesters, but rioters who are causing a law and order problem in Canada, and particularly in Brampton, where just a couple of days ago there was another temple that was attacked, and the consular camp that had been set up by the Indian diplomats, the Indian High Commission was disrupted. I mean, this is exactly what they want. They want that these consular camps are not held. And do you think instead of the Canadian police helping and ensuring security and safety of the people and stopping such unlawful activities and anti-national people, anti-social elements to then be going about in the surrounding, in the vicinity, are actually just aiding and abetting the cause of these of these extremists, of these rioters?
Thank you, Megha. Megha, I come into this discussion today with a very heavy heart. It's very unfortunate that a lot of these misinformed individuals who tend to call themselves Sikhs attacked a temple. Not even that, I don't think these Johnnies understand that over 70% of the people availing the services inside the temple were Sikhs if you look at the photographs. But Megha, if I was to open this up, unfortunately, this tamasha has been going on in Canada for the last 30 years. I mean, this was going on between the Sikh temples too. And, they've been fighting for the golaks and fighting for, controlling the gurdwaras. So this nonsensical criminals which operate under the bogey of free speech and are nourished by the deep state in Canada, and maybe their southern neighbor is also conveniently quiet behind the show, have been instrumental in all of this. So I don't have very little hope with the way things are panning out, because the penetration of these key elements is right from the top to the bottom. I mean, the rank of a sergeant was outside wearing non-police clothes, and he was for the second time part of all of this. So it's very sad that Canada has probably become the new Pakistan, and this other creature called Pannu. I mean, I don't know. Which Sikhs is he talking about? Which referendums is he talking about? I mean, 85% of us live in India. There are 1.6 crore Sikhs living in Punjab, out of which 50 lakhs outside Punjab and 30 lakhs abroad. So which Sikhs, which referendum, which voting, who is he choosing to represent? I mean, we have so many elections. In fact, on a note of levity, I say we probably have more elections than we ought to have in our country.
Right.
So I don't know which community, which Sikhs, which referendums is he talking about. I think they're not even Sikhs, because if they understand the sacrifices our religion has made, the last thing they ought to do is go and attack any place of worship, not just Hindu, but any place of worship. So these are misinformed individuals who are simply involved in all sorts of nefarious activities and are only, maybe giving votes and notes to this pyromania called Justin Trudeau, who's out to burn his house. Okay. He's already burned the relationship between two democracies.
He has. All right. Lord Rami Ranger also on the telecast with me. And Lord Ranger, about the security threat to the temples in Canada. On one hand, the Canadian police is not able to tackle it. They are at this point of time stating, at least this is what they appear to be saying, that they will not be able to ensure that there is law and order ensured and maintained in the temple and in the vicinity if that camp is held. And on the other hand, parallelly, there are these threats that are being issued by Gurpatwant Singh Pannun. He is a proscribed terrorist by India, who is again going about saying that the temples in Canada are going to be attacked. Now, can't the Canadian police and the American administrations put two and two together and issue strong statements and take stern action?
First of all, you have to appreciate that the success of India's progress is unpalatable to many countries, and we do not have to go far. We are surrounded by our enemies, and they will do anything to damage the reputation of India in the world. But they're not going to succeed. Number two, nobody can do things which are happening in Canada without the blessing of Canadian government. If the Canadian government was tough, American government were tough, no one could give terrorist threat from their soil. FBI is helpless, Royal Canadian Mounted Police is helpless, because they are aiding and abetting this hostility against India, but they are also failing to understand they are dividing their own country as well. And the effect of this division will be felt long after Trudeau is gone. So therefore, if there was any Sikh, they will never ever attack any religious place. No Guru has ever attacked any religious place. Guru Tegh Bahadur gave his Balidan. He accepted martyrdom to protect the Hindu faith. Guru Gobind Singh Ji established the Brotherhood of Khalsa with the 5 Pyaras who were all Hindus. One from Karnataka, one from Odisha, one from Gujarat, one from UP, one from Punjab. So where are they come from? They were all Hindus. And the reason he brought these 5 Pyara from each corner of India as a symbol of India is one. So those who do this kind of thing cannot be inspired by the teaching of gurus. Maybe they are inspired by the teaching of ISI or some other nefarious group or any power which it is in their interest to create problem.
Okay.
But I will appeal to Hindus and Sikhs not to fall for their bait. Do not overreact, and demonstrate that our Sanatani roots are one, we are one, our gurus have given us a faith to unite humanity, not to divide humanity.
Okay.
Anyone
But it becomes difficult, because when there are targeted attacks and it is not just protests and sloganeering that happens, there are actually violence that is perpetuated. There are physical attacks that happen on Hindus, and not just Hindus but Sikhs who are not adhering to this extremist Khalistani philosophy. And when the Canadian government, the Canadian police are hand in glove in perpetuating these violent acts against the Indian nationals, against the Indian Canadians, how do we tackle the situation? And that's why when you say Hindus are under threat or Indians living in Canada are under threat, Ramneet Singh Mann, is there a solution? Because here you have it, you have the diplomats are being attacked, false allegations are being issued against them, levied against them. You have Hindus that are being targeted, temples that are being desecrated, graffiti being written, Hindus go back, these kind of messages that are being put out, and even Sikhs who don't, like I said, who do not adhere to the philosophy or to the kind of narrative that is built by these extremist groups are not spared. So how do we protect Indians living in Canada?
Okay, good evening, Megha, and good evening to all the fellow panelists, and also to all your viewers listening or hearing us today. Well, I concur with every word Lord Remy Ranger said, and I would go beyond what he said. Lord Ranger, sir, these are only for people who are reasonable, logical, who understand history, who know where they came from, not for those who have been, paid to do a certain job. It's a hitman's job. It's a paid job. So let's understand that. So you are very correct when you say they're not Sikhs. Well, they look like Sikhs, but they're not Sikhs. Well, Megha, when you ask for solutions, I mean, that's the final argument. Okay, so let me try and address that to begin with. We've seen terrorist groups and gangsters and drug dealers and people of mafia under serious pressure and threat from sovereign nations, from the police forces, the special forces, the military, and others of several nations, including India. Well, the Canadian government, the Prime Minister, and the coalition partner of the Canadian Prime Minister, they appear to be under pressure of terrorists, goons, criminal elements, drug dealers, drug lords, people who deal in blood money. Well, the solution is that, you turn them around and use the writ of law. And if the Canadian police is feeling helpless in providing sufficient security to temples, gurdwaras, to people of Indo-Canadian origin, to Indians, Hindus and Sikhs alike, well, then they can call for their special forces to do the job. If not so, then the Canadian Army, which was once, quote unquote, under Harjeet Sajjan, who was himself a Canadian, who was himself a Khalistani sympathizer. Well, I think we've had, as Ambassador Pradeep would know, that we've had CISF protecting our missions in Afghanistan. So we can have our SSB, our CRPF, CISF, Indian police or perhaps Indian army if the Canadians cannot provide enough security, because it's the responsibility of the host nation to protect the diplomatic staff of any country that would reside in their nation. So if they feel helpless, well, we can always pitch in a helping hand, a lending hand, and our CISF and our CRPF is very capable. They're very, very capable. I think we can get our special forces to do the job.
Okay.
But the law and order is a straight subject. So I feel that the Canadians must step up their game, because honestly, it was Punjab police which eradicated terrorism from the face of Punjab.
Okay.
And, a police force with a political will is very capable of delivering.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the absurdity of the situation, Ambassador Kapoor. And again, talking about how is it that the Canadian police has not been able to protect the consulate, the camp that was to be set up on the 17th. The question arises is the government and the law and order agencies are also colluding? You are at this point in time falling in the trap of these extremists, these radical elements who do not want these camps to be set up, who want the diplomats to be targeted, who
100%.
want the Hindus and the Sikhs who want to live peacefully and in harmony in Canada to prosper, to live, to exist. So you talk about a small segment. I don't know how many of these Hindus or how many of these Indians would have been visiting the temple. Maybe I don't know 500. That's a figure that is on the greater side and not on the lower side. So if you can't manage a crowd of 500 people and even lesser so, I think you don't deserve to be part of the law and order agency.
Yeah, you have said it very well, Megha. It is somehow incomprehensible to me, because an advanced country or a country which was considering itself as one of the advanced countries till recently can stoop to this level of indecency that they are not able to provide basic security for any normal execution of work. Diplomats apart, even an ordinary citizen deserves much more respect than this. So if you are absolutely incapable, and it speaks volumes, so the Canadian society also has to speak up, has to reflect upon it as to what sort of future are we heading into. That people who have come here to, do some diplomatic work, even those people we cannot let them continue doing discharging the normal duties. People who are seeking some work from the embassy, consular personnel are not able to access that. So the media also has to take it up in a big way. The Sikhs have to also take it up in the gurdwaras and in their communities as to why are they letting this happen. Is it a normal thing to happen in any country of the world, leave alone in a country which touts itself as an advanced country? The Hindus have to take it up. The Christians have to reflect upon it, because this is antithetical to even the basic Christian values. So I think the entire society, the media, the judiciary, the executive, the legislative branch, and the leadership of that country. And it's a very big shame for any country to be in this, status that ordinary lawful execution of work is not being allowed, and they're not being able to give the basic minimum protection for carrying out these duties.
Absolutely.
So I think they have to hang their head in shame.
Yes.
This can be taken up even at the UN level, that Canada is totally, failing to. And we send out, of course, we have large number of security personnel in place like Afghanistan or Pakistan or Sri Lanka. But we are not going to be sending out people to countries which are supposed to be advanced, which are supposed to have a functioning law and order system. But this is a total breakdown, breakdown of the law and order system.
Yeah. So
to say that Indian consular officials have to cancel their camp.
Right, absolutely. Surinder Singh Lali, coming to you now, talking about how the situation has worsened, but there has not been a statement that has been put in. put by the Canadian government. Justin Trudeau as well as not has come out and shown solidarity and support and sympathy for the people. The last attack that happened, and now obviously under the threat that there could be yet another one, the November 17th event has been cancelled. How should India at this point of time tackle and ensure the safety of Hindus and Indians overall in the country?
Thank you, Megha. Firstly, allow me to thank you and your NewsX for allowing the likes of me this space for us to keep our point of view, that just because these people wear a turban and we wear a turban, that does not mean that we subscribe, 85% of the Sikhs living in India subscribe to their ideology or to their nefarious activities. Number two, if I may appeal, let's be very judicious ourselves also with our choice of words, and I wouldn't call this a Hindu versus Sikh issue. I would call it a Hindu plus Sikh versus the K elements. Because if we are not judicious with our choice of words and use that K word, which I used to even oblige them with, because for me they're nothing else but extremist activists. And if we are not judicious with our choice of words, we'll end up becoming a part of their campaign. So it's not a Hindu versus Sikh issue, but it's a Hindu plus Sikh versus the K elements, which are only found in this place in Canada and maybe a little bit more in England and in America too.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Since we're talking about the Khalistani issue and which is the best way to tackle it, there has been any support from governments, whether it is United Kingdom or America, and obviously increasing so what is happening in Canada, and maybe some of these elements even sprouting in Australia. So, Lord Rami, how can forces be aligned, associations, organizations, committees that are formed who are Indian Americans and British Indians and Indian Canadians and Indian Australians? Can there be associations, cooperation be shown to put forth a united front and being able to raise the voice for international organizations and forcing other countries of the world to look up and take notice and acknowledge and recognize and pressurize countries like Canada and their governments to be forced to take action?
First of all, it's the responsibility of great leaders to keep their country united. They need to maintain race relation, social cohesion, so the citizen can progress, become upstanding citizen of the country. When people are engaged in such activities, anti-India, anti-religion, they are not going to develop to be a wholesome citizen of a country. So therefore, I am at pain to think how Canada is scoring its own goal. Hardworking people who have gone from India to earn their living have lost their plot and gone into a wrong direction. If they want to have a Khalistan, India is a democratic country, form a political party with a manifesto, clear agenda that after getting a mandate from the public, from the people, we will have an independence like Scotland. That is the right way in a civilized democratic country. You do not further your cause by attacking innocent people or shouting and screaming. That just shows what kind of government you're going to produce, right, what kind of the country you're going to have. So therefore, it is very important. The Hindu Sikhs are one. They have been one from day one. The Sikhs are only 500 years old. Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, 5,000 years ago, right, they inspired our gurus. They inspire us. We cannot be separated from our roots.
Okay.
These are Sanatani roots.
Yeah, like you already mentioned that in your previous comment as well. I'm quickly going to close this conversation with Ramneet Singh Mann. How should the Indian government tackle this? Or is this going to be the new normal under which Indians will have to live? The threat that looms large in Canada.
No, I don't see this going on forever, because in any which case, the people of Canada are going to kick Justin Trudeau out November next year, October next year. So you will be having a different prime minister. How it's going to pan out between India and Canada then, because it's going to be almost a year with Trump in office then. Things for these Canadian and US terrorists will be very different. Well, again, acknowledging what Lord Rami Ranger said, that of course, there's a democratic process. You referred to Scotland. Why not talk about Quebec, British Columbia, Cascadia, Newfoundland Island and Labrador? Why not talk about Nova Scotia, Manitoba, or Vancouver? They all want independence from Canada. Why don't you? Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan has the largest uranium treasure of the world. See, again, the thing is that when you say, Megha, that Justin Trudeau has not shown solidarity, you're wrong, because he's shown solidarity with the Canadian terrorists. He has shown solidarity. He's been doing it for a while now. So they have their options, they have their priorities and preferences, which are very, very lopsided against their relations with India. If a country, a prime minister chooses to line and assign himself with a terrorist organization, well, then, of course, what else can you say? That Canada is quickly becoming the Pakistan of the West.
Okay.
When you are addressing on the floor of your parliament a designated terrorist as an honorable citizen, I mean, well, with that logic, Bin Laden was an honorable citizen. With that logic, al-Baghdadi was an honorable citizen. So, I mean, you need to be very careful with the choice of words. And I call them very clearly, like Lali was saying, I call them terrorists, and they are Canadian terrorists.
Okay.
They are based out of Canada.
Yeah.
They are American terrorists.
But how long, how many decades, perhaps a century, that it will take for India to then convince the rest of the world that Canada is harboring terrorists and supporting them and giving them safe havens and thereby becoming a terrorist nation? How acceptable is it going to be that a country, the people who look like them, the Caucasians, the white-skinned, blue-eyed people are going to be accepted as the terrorists of the world? On that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.